Welcome to Kevin's TV, you guys. Today is day 7 of Let's Talk History / Black History. Do not mind the durag on my head. I just had to get chopped today, so I'm letting my waves sit for a minute. But today I would like to take the time and tell the story of Emmet Till. Emmet Till is an individual whose life made a big and major impact on the Civil Rights Movement during the 1950s. He was a Chicago native, and Emmet Till kind of reminded me of myself for what he did and a lot of what's going on in the generation of these children these days. Excuse me. Well, Emmet Till was a 14-year-old black teenager at the time. He went to go visit some family members in Money, Mississippi. And while he went to go visit those family members, after a long day of picking cotton, Emmett, alongside some teenagers and some of his cousins, they went into a grocery store. As they went into that grocery store, Emmett never came back, and Emmett never came back alive. His so-called friends and his so-called cousins, they did come back. Emmett's father, who was known as Louis Till, he was a veteran in the U.S. Army during World War II. Well, the reason that I say that Emmett reminds me of myself, or vice versa, I'll say, which is because Emmett's mother, at the time, she worked long hours to provide for their house. And while she worked long hours providing for the house, Emmett made sure that he took on the responsibilities of cleaning the house, making sure everything was nice and neat, and doing laundry and so. Well, in my case, I technically do the same thing, or did the same thing, when I was the same age as Emmett. Now, when Emmett passed away, he was at the age of 14. So I say that probably around age 12, I started learning to clean and cook and do laundry and take care of myself and my younger brother at the time. At that time, it was just two of us, while my mom was in law school and working a full-time job at the time to provide for us, make sure that we had food on the table and a roof over our head, and that the bills were paid. And again, like I say, Emmett, like, technically done the same thing for his mom during the time. Although Emmett did not know or get to meet his dad, it was just him and his mother. And his mother described him as the head of the household at that time. He cooked, he cleaned, and he did laundry and all of this sort. Well, it was in the summer of 1951 when Emmett and a group of his so-called friends and cousins went to a grocery store after a long day of picking cotton. And when they went into that grocery store, everybody came out except Emmet Till himself. Emmet Till not only did not come out of that grocery store, but he did not come out alive. And as the news sparked the entire nation, and his hometown, which was Chicago, and the state of Mississippi, Emmet Till death was described as a kidnapping during that time. Well, as his cousins and so-called friends, once again, did make it out of the grocery store, it was in question, of course, on what happened to Emmet Till. The friends and the cousins say that Emmett went in the grocery store to buy a pack of bubble gum, and the other individuals bought refreshments. They say that Emmett ended up touching some of the white female employees, to be specific, at that time. Once again, this was during the 1950s, so a lot of segregation and racism was high, during this time, and people were even scared to go into certain grocery stores or establishments also. Well, just like there's an old saying, what happens in the dark always comes to light. And as time ended up coming about or whatever, one of the grocery store's owners actually did kidnap Emmet Till, but they beat him to unconscious inside of the grocery store. As his cousins or friends, whichever ones it was at the time, they dragged his body away to someone's house at the time, one of his cousins' house. And so it was about 4 days later that Emmet Till's body was found beaten to death and murdered in the Tallahatchie River. The Tallahatchie River is a river that flows about 230 miles in between the Mississippi River. If you've ever traveled in between Birmingham, Alabama, or from Memphis, Tennessee, or any like that, you probably have seen a sign on the road that says Tallahatchie River, and you see that river flow, and that is where, somewhere in that river again, where authorities found Emmet Till's body. To kind of put the icing on the cake here for people to understand where I'm coming from, is the fact that it is important that not only as black children and black men and women to be vigilant of themselves and their surroundings, but you have to be vigilant of your family members and your so-called friends, because you may end up in a situation like Emmet Till. And it has been a lot of black men and women in these days that have gone through a situation and that time. You have a long list of individuals such as Tyree Nichols, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Eric Garner, and so many more in the early 2000s, from all the way to the 1950s once again. Unlike today, you have a lot of children these days who are street running thugs, as people would say. Their parents just don't have no type of sympathy or empathy for them. They're out here running in the streets at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning when they should be in the bed getting ready for school. These parents, they just don't have no type of care for their children these days. And instead of them being in the shoes of Emmet Till, who was actually cooking, cleaning, and doing laundry for his mom during the 1950s while she was working long hours, and he doing his due diligence and getting himself ready for school also, and trying to make a way for his family. Well, a lot of these children these days don't even have that type of sense. They walking around stealing in people's cars, stealing women's purses out the grocery stores, shooting and killing innocent people on the streets. And a lot of time it become from a lot of the police officers as well also. Your civil rights is very important to you. No matter where you go, who you are, what you're doing, even in your your job field. The children these days, they sit up and they do violent acts with their family and friends, then turn around and be on the news, national news and local news, and then sit up there and lie or go, well, he won't like that, or I didn't raise him like that, and things of that nature. In my opinion, if there was a majority of children, or I would say 90% of these children, who actually had a sense and would do what Emmet Till did during his time, which was to have a big responsibility, do chores or clean up the house for their parents or for their mother or whoever the guardian is during this time, then a lot of the children in this generation would be saved and eliminated from the jails versus what they are now. And a lot of, in my opinion, once again, a lot of lives would be less unalived than what they are now. I hope you guys get the picture that are being painted here. And the fact being is that Emmet Till actually had a plan, a future, and a brain for himself. And it's sad that in cases or a lot of children these days that they don't have that type of character or training in their household. A lot of them don't have no type of education, no real knowledge, none of that's going on these days. They don't want a job, they don't want to become educated, and things of that nature also. I found my sources on www.usatoday.com/Emmet Till. You can find your sources there if you want to know more about the story of Emmet Till and how his life impacted the Civil Rights Movement and Black history. Also, it was in 2022 that Emmet Till's statue was unveiled in Greenwood, Mississippi. Now, without further ado, I'm going to end this video here, and if you would please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your post notification bell so that you can see furthermore videos of me talking about Black history/history. And thank you.